Thank you. I think it's safe to say we have the toughest session. One, because we've watched a very inspiring video and it's hard to come after that, but also because we've just had lunch. And as I've come to realize in my last, 24 hours in Hong Kong, you people don't play around with food. Yesterday we struggled. But I mean, if there's anyone who can keep this lively, it is this panel that has actually been described as a panel of prize winners. Let's start by understanding what will happen in the next 2 days. Now, we will be having conversations about ways that we can continue to transform education, which I think is really exciting. That's why we're all here. But I want to tell you something that's also surprising and potentially really scary. We have about 2 billion children around the world, right? And those are just the ones under 18. We've not even started to look at higher education and what that could be. So ideally, everything we discuss in the next 2 days, this room, we somehow have to carry that information and try and reach 2 billion people, children, right? You look scared. Okay, maybe let's reduce it to 1 billion, maybe? It sounds impossible. In fact, this sounds like the beginning of Mission Impossible, the movie, right? Somehow, like Tom Cruise, we're supposed to be able to jump over hurdles and barriers, policy, work with agents to be able to push forward these ideas in education. But what if I told you it's possible? There is possibility in this room. That's what we'll be discussing today. We'll be understanding how leadership exists in all corners, in classrooms, in boardrooms, and even in our kitchens, right? We can all be leaders. We can all be the Tom Cruises of education. Please turn to your neighbor and say, today we're becoming the Tom Cruises of education. Let's now turn to our panel. I will say you have a very hard job ahead. I'll start with you, Bassem. Let's start by understanding exactly what the problem is. What's wrong with the way that the world currently perceives leadership?
Hello, everyone. First of all, it's an honor to be along such respected panelists, and thank you, the Dan Prize Summit, for inviting us. I think one of the biggest misconceptions about leadership today is that we still look at it from a hierarchical lens. We tend to equate leadership with authority, decision-making power, titles, position, and I think this narrow lens blinds us to the small but very powerful acts of leadership that happen every day by teachers, parents, librarians, and I'd like to share one example here from the work that we do at the foundation. We have a libraries model. It's called READ. What we do is we go to public schools, libraries. Usually they're old. They don't have new books, engaging books, nothing exciting about the space. So what we do is we completely transform it. We paint it with colorful colors, bean bags, cushions, and we give them age-appropriate books. And most importantly, we train teachers, principals, and librarians on how to create the culture of reading, how to engage children and students, and how to make reading fun. So in one of the schools that we worked with, the librarian was telling us that before this program, she used to feel embarrassed about her role and responsibility. But after the program, something shifted. She took full ownership over the space. She started doing storytelling sessions. She bringing in authors to read to children. The library became the most visited room in the school. And she also took this one step further, and she started doing training for neighboring schools on how to create the culture of reading and make reading fun. This is the agent of change that we need. It has nothing to do with a title or a position. It's ownership, it's agency, it's owning what she feels is right to do and just doing it. Yeah.
Lovely. Ownership, I think, is the biggest thing, biggest takeaway there. Kiran, over to you. I mean, previously you've said that with teachers especially, they can either build bridges or barriers. What do you consider good leadership in education?
I think, taking from what Bassem said, it clearly has nothing to do with gender, hierarchy, age, wealth, title, right? And I think the idea, when you talk about leadership in a classroom, it's the superpower of listening. Oh, we don't do that enough as adults. We like to instruct and explain and teach and tell, but we don't want to listen. And the act of listening is such a powerful bridge you build between the child's heart and you. And that bridge is so strong then if you do that again and again and give the child the respect and the trust of an ally. And I feel that, and I've been seeing children all my work, and I keep saying this and I say this again, that in the first 2 years of a child's life on the planet, any child, they're going to go from sitting and standing and crawling and talking and running and playing and saying, look at me, I can. It tells every adult that. And just when they do that, what do we say? You have to go to school. And then we stop everything. And I think the idea of continuing to look at that kernel and seed of leadership that resides in every child when they build that confidence is what a teacher needs to continue to build. So I think a simple act of listening is the most powerful way to start the idea of leadership. So I think children need us to listen more and speak less.
Right, listen more, speak less. Marjorie, I'll come over to you because just on that listening, you know, different communities, you're in different spaces, all the way from Harvard here in Hong Kong. I wonder, when you're in these communities, do you get a sense that people really understand anyone or everyone can be part of change, can cultivate that change?
Can we go back and talk about Tom Cruise?
Yeah.
Always.
So I went to Harvard Business School, and from time to time I would go back for a refresher course. And of course, Harvard Business School, I come back and said to my colleagues, everyone is gonna be a leader. Blah, 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 blah. There's all this theory, you know, why everyone can be a leader and has to be a leader to deal with a complex world, a complex network, blah, blah, blah. I come back to Hong Kong, I get a note from one of my colleagues. He runs, by the way, I'm in the textile and apparel industry. This guy runs apparel manufacturing. He said, boss, let me give you a profile of the type of people who choose to come into our industry. So he profiled our colleagues. These are mostly people who feel shy, they're very shy, and they just want to have a very, they don't want to be leaders. They would rather follow a Tom Cruise, but they don't want to be Tom Cruise. I still have that PowerPoint. It taught me something. Then, what we need to do is to make everybody feel comfortable being a leader, but not a Tom Cruise type of leader. That's been the challenge. How do you make a group of ordinary people behave like leaders and not feel that they are Tom Cruise, but in fact, they're doing everything that Tom Cruise does in a very heroic way? So that's been the challenge in our company. And so enough about Tom Cruise.
I wonder really, why is this so urgent right now? Why is it important in your different spaces? Why is there a need for us to start cultivating these leaders?
Shall I go ahead? I think for us, the urgency is rooted in what we call the global learning crisis. When half of the children in Jordan and many countries around the world are not able to read an age-appropriate paragraph with comprehension, that's not just a learning crisis, that's a leadership crisis. And this doesn't only fall on the Ministry of Education or the Minister of Education, it actually cascades down across every layer of the system. Principals, teachers, parents, everyone within the child's environment. And if we truly want to achieve system-wide transformation, we need to expand who we look at as agents of change. And we've seen what's possible. Take Sobrao, for example. It's a small municipality in Brazil that I happened to visit with the IAFG. And honestly, it's very impressive. When a political will was met with a vision, they were able to change everything. They started investing in early reading, they started investing in teacher training, they empowered teachers and principals, they started using evidence to make better decisions, and this is where it all shifted. They moved from the bottom of the national ranking to the very top. So I guess what we can see and what we can say here is that if leadership exists at every level of the system, transformation is not only doable or possible, it's actually inevitable.
Right. I mean, just coming to you, Karen, before you answer this. Now, I, for example, went to school in Kenya, grew up there, but because of my work, I've seen what schools look like in places like Malawi, and even in Thailand, by the way, there's a school that's run entirely by kids. They even choose their own teachers, right? So the teachers just come in to give them knowledge, but everything else is actually the kids, they are the agents of change. But when we're talking about social economical factors, for example, in Malawi, there are still children who have no classrooms. They learn outside. How can we make this a key part of the discussion in places that have less and are struggling with the little that they have?
You know, I don't know whether it is a case of much. I think it's a case of intent. It doesn't really have to be many things, infrastructure and all of that changes happen, right? It has to do with really unrelenting intent. It is the intentionality of the actions you take, it is showing up, it is, a lot of people have talked about collaboration and all of that. So I think that collective will is really at the heart of that change. And it doesn't have to happen just like Basim said in ministry or just being Tom Cruise, but I think it's the idea of the collective will. And I'm just looking at 2020 when we had the pandemic. My God, to have a vaccine out in a year, it was unimaginable. But there was collective will to get back into life. And I think that collective will for our children is something that we have to really show up for. So I don't know whether it is about the plenty, it is about the intention of that experience, that moment, that day. And I find that so much of the conversations about 2030 or 2028 or 2050, boss, figure out today.
Yep.
How do you show up today? If you do that today, 2030 will get taken care of. Right?
And speaking about figuring this out today, Marjorie, if I was to go, or if we were to go and try and start cultivating these leaders, how do we incentivize them? How do we talk to a very tired mother and get her to actually want to be involved and become an agent of change?
Well, first let me go take a step back and say, why do we need agents of change, and why I started this whole initiative to make everybody a leader. I think if you look at corporates, after the Second World War, it was very much a top-down command control type of leadership works because it was a seller's market. As we become more affluent, the market starts to drive behavior. Now you need more people, more points of contact. So this command control type of leadership has to change. With all these people coming into contact with external customers as well as internal customers. So now you need a lot of people who are independent critical thinkers, who feel empowered and who are going to make decisions. And that's why everyone has to learn to be a leader. Now, in our case, we have a lot of mothers who are, there's a saying that you can't teach 45, and especially today with technology moving so fast, the pace of change is even more rapid. So all the more reason why we have to have people empowered. One of the challenges, and in a case like ours, there's a lot of talk about how AI is going to completely replace workers. So we want to go out and make this very tired mother feel that she can be part of the technology age rather than being marginalized. So one of the tricks I used to do is to say, hey, you have a kid, this kid waves at you with their iPhone or with their mobile phone and say, Mom, you're out, I'm in. Now, what if you can tell them, I made an app that will completely turn your status? So in our factories, we used App Inventor, which is developed at MIT, which is intended for children to learn to code. And then when a mother, or sometimes a father, they can do that, they feel that they are part of the technology age. And this is something that we're very proud of, that we are able to do, is to make people feel that they are part of the technology age.
Right. Now, I'm just wondering here, we're talking about leaders today, but leaders tomorrow. What kind of skills do people need to start developing in order to be good leaders, and thinking also into the future? I'll probably come to you first, Kiran.
I think it comes from not the external factor, but the internal. The idea of really deep self-awareness. I mean, how do I respond in a place of crisis? How do I respond to love? How do I respond to challenges? It's such an ongoing story of self-discovery. So the more you go within and you get stronger and clearer about the choices you make and the way you react and respond in crisis and other times, you start getting more confident about the way the external responses get done. So I think we spend so much about skills you learn you need to do to become a leader, you forget that that's the internal sort of growth that has to happen first. Because you might have a title, or you might have money, or you might have whatever position, but the first crisis and you fall apart. It doesn't matter what title you have, right? It's not going to work. So I think the ability to start realizing how you consistently show up, not that one time, once in a year on Christmas, you say, I will be a fabulous leader, I'll be awesome. But it's that ability to build that consistency in your awareness of self. And that is not measurable, so we don't teach it.
Right.
How do I measure confidence or courage or empathy or joy? I can't, so that's put aside. And then we say, oh, you must learn to lead by an Excel sheet or a PowerPoint. And we're failing to see that connection. So I think the one thing that I've seen, and that works really for children, and then of course I think it's worked for me, is to really be reflective and understanding all those decisions you make, and how do you constantly, you're a work in progress, so I think
I can see you itching to jump in.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with everything that you said. But I'd also like to cover three main skills that I think will be definitely needed for the future leaders. I think one is adaptability, and here I'm referring to learning and unlearning. Obviously, with everything that's changing now, with the AI, so much ambiguity that we're living with, there's global uncertainty reshaping every sector. So basically, leaders have to unlearn old ways of doing things, learn quickly, make decisions, and lead the team through this transformation. So adaptability is one. The second is empathy, because leadership at its core is about people. We often tell our team members at QRF, we will never look at you as a number, we'll always look at you as a human with real challenges and circumstances. And this is why the team at QRF, they don't look at QRF as a workplace, it's home. They don't look at their projects or programs as if there's something that they need to work on, but they want to be part of this mission. So this creates sort of accountability and pride and ownership. And the last, which is one thing that Becky this morning also tapped into, which is being evidence fluency. I think especially in contexts like Jordan, we're a small country with limited resources, we have to make sure that all decisions are based on evidence to become more efficient and effective in our work.
Let's unpack that a little, right? Because we've just heard it can be hard to measure empathy, right?
Yeah.
So what are some of those signs that we can expect to start to see if we go out and make our own forms of Tom Cruise who can become leaders, right? What are those indicators that it's actually working or it's helping? And maybe from examples you've seen in your own work.
Shall I go? I think one of the main things is when you see people leading even when no one's watching. This is when you know that new leaders are being born. When people start leading because of a mission that they believe in, and not because of a pressure or someone is asking them to do this. And when the work continues even after the leader steps aside, the work continues and the progress continues and the impact is still there. This is where you know that it has really worked.
So these are the ideas we can use to measure and see that things are actually having an impact. Kiran?
I think I'm going to just reference the work we've done with Design for Change and seen it over 15 years. I think a great shift happens when you don't design solutions for people but with people. That's marvelous. So that means you have to slow down, you have to remove assumptions, you have to seek to understand. Oh, these are tough things to do, even for adults, right? But when you see children lean into that confidence of listening to people or engaging and going deeper, the process of then a solution, I'm just taking that as a case of leadership, that means you lead into a solution, is such an empowering moment of accomplishment. So it does two things. It is, of course, a solution for the experience that gets better, but the sense of accomplishment that comes from doing something that is real and authentic does great things for yourself as well. So I think it's a two-way street. You get the benefit of both when you are looking at measuring in any way, did that solution work for the user? Did it really change the experience, rather than saying, but I think you need this. You have a problem, I'll change it for you. It's a very developmental mindset to change. But when you really put the design process and slow down and engage and remove bias, and that's a powerful way to look at change, yeah.
Marjorie, I think we'd like to hear your thoughts on the same.
I was going to share an example of a great leader in my mind. And, everybody's familiar with F1. Probably most people know who Michael Schumacher is. But fewer people know about Jean Todt, who was the Ferrari leader that Michael Schumacher drove for. I've observed Jean Todt. He's an amazing leader. Win or lose, his heartbeat is at the same level. And after every race, he will go and analyze the race. On top of that, the team doesn't feel that they do not go up and down with what's going on in the field. They are really professional. Which brings me to my second point, the importance of sports in education, especially for children. Learning to lose is a very important part of leadership training. And I think that is something, I was recently at a conference where they honor the principals of schools where they encourage sports. And I'd like to highlight that as something that we should all incorporate into the curriculum is sports. So back to you.
Thank you. I want to come to a different part of the conversation, which really, it looks at a way that these agents can also collaborate, and especially when you have cross-sector collaboration, you have governments, but you also have community leaders. How does it work so that these agents of change really feel like their voices are being heard? I'll start with you, Bassam.
So basically, we have to, first of all, we have to look at different forms of agents of change, and this is how it will work. If I need to recognize leadership where it already exists, whether it's a parent at home, a policymaker at a ministry, wherever it is, this is where you have to know that this is leadership. What I have to do is just open my eyes, see it, and nurture it. Make sure that they have all the right tools, the right training, ownership, confidence, so that they are able to lead and take things forward.
Just on that, you know, I have 2 kids, and my son especially, he's 7, and he's exploring the world. And sometimes he'll come home and he'll say, I'll tell him something, and he said, no, the teacher said this, right? How do you actually get people to collaborate in that sense? Make sure what the teachers are saying and the parents, these different forms of leadership are actually working together. Although mummy is always right. Let me put that out there. Yeah.
No, but that's true. Mama's always right.
Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise, Tom Cruise is always right. One of them. No, I think it's conditions you create. If you're asking what happens with children, oh, they collaborate all the time till we drum it out of them. So they're natural collaborators when they're born. They love play and they want to play and they think everybody is wonderful. And then when they get into a formal system, they're told, oh, not with this person and not with those people, and those people you should be scared of. That's when we teach them not to collaborate. And then we are assuming after 15 years of telling them don't do this, they're suddenly going to collaborate again? Unreasonable, right? So I think the conditions in your daily practice to nurture the idea of empathy and love and joyfulness and that, people get that. Everybody gets that. You know, we have to give a little and we have to take a little and we have to navigate, and those are beautiful skill sets you learn. So I don't know why this is such a unique new conversation of collaboration. It just is if you put that in. But if you don't, then you cannot say, oh, we must now collaborate. So I think it's a question of making that, like you said, sports. It's some of those things you just put it in.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no rocket science in saying that this is going to happen.
And just that, and you've mentioned also navigating. And Marjorie, I know you work with different communities and people also of different ages. How does a collaboration happen, especially when you have leaders from very different generations?
I was going to refer to my experience. I've been chairing an advisory committee for the Hong Kong Jockey Club on a project called Cool Think at JC, and which is essentially teaching children from P4 to P6 on how to code. But it's not about coding, it's about embedding computational thinking. And it is also bringing in a new way of teaching. It's a flipped classroom, it's peer learning. So when I first started, I thought the target audience are the students. Turned out, well, we had identified that students, teachers, and parents are the 3 target audiences. The teachers I didn't expect so much. I learned a lot, no, not resistance, but I learned a lot from their testimony. One of the teachers said, I never thought that, I've always taught this way, directionally. I teach, you learn. I never thought that the day would come when I feel comfortable about saying, I don't know the answer, let's explore. And he said, this is one of the testimonies that the teachers, they were sharing after doing this. And that is important because if you want the students to start to listen and to hear different points of view, you've got to start with the teacher. Although it's interesting that this teacher said that I felt really good that I'm now going to be able to learn from the students as well. So I think that's a good place to start.
Yeah. I think just adding to that, one thing I've learned is children might not always listen to you, but they'll always imitate you. So are you worthy of being imitated? You're in front of a child and they're looking at you. How do you respond in those moments? And you can't say one thing and be another thing. So the act of being is what they're picking up, not what you're telling them. So in so many ways, when we don't model collaboration, when we don't model kindness, or we don't model courage, and we say we're teaching chemistry, you've lost the plot, right? So the idea is, how do you model these behaviors that people, your children will be picking up?
Yeah, can I also add to the collaboration piece, but I'll be talking about a different lens, which is the policy lens, because this is very important. I think policy should be developed with those who live its impact, and this is why it has to be a collaborative topic, and it has to be collaborative effort, and usually we look at collaboration as Kiran said, basically for students, children, but if we are not doing this as elders, that will never happen, and if we are creating policy for children and children's voices not part of it, that will never happen. I wish today we had a student with us on the panel to talk about being an agent of change, and maybe this is an idea for Yidan for next year. But it has to be a collaborative effort. They have to be part of everything. They have to feel that they're part of this community. They're not just children. You children play with each other. We're not part of your community. No, we're all together in this. You are part of what we're doing. We are part of what you are doing. This is where they start seeing, and as you said, imitating us, that we want to be collaborative. We want to be part of this mission.
It's interesting. Again, just going back to the school I was saying in Thailand, those were the results they were getting from the school. A school where children make their own decisions about what they're going to eat and, actually sit in a board to select the teachers coming in. I wonder, just on navigating still, what happens when you have leaders with their own personal interests, right? I've seen cases where maybe at top leadership positions, money is allocated, some accidentally goes into someone's pocket, some actually ends up in the school helping. But when you have leaders in all these different areas and you're trying to build more leadership, but then some people have their own interests, how do you navigate that?
Oh, sorry, we have to not laugh. Sorry.
Yeah, no, Karen.
It's a real thing.
Karen, you can start off, yeah.
I mean, oh. So you're saying, how do we navigate when everybody has a different...
When you have
They're pulling
leaders
from...
who might not have the right intentions.
Yeah, but then that's called life, right? So I think in many ways, one thing that I've learned more than anything else, it's not just the talent and the skill that you need stamina. You just need to have stamina and a sense of humor, and you have to be shameless. These are the 3 S's that I will advocate to everybody. Be shameless, have a sense of humor, and have stamina. Stamina for the good fight. So I think, I started a school 25 years ago, and you have to show up every single day and still believe that it's possible, and it's true, and it's tough, and it's messy, but it's fabulous, because every day you'll show up, it's something that, right? Yeah, so I think... You just show up.
And you being here also shows, all of you really, that it's possible in different ways. Marjorie, you wanted to
I'd
share?
like to really support that. Now, some of you may know, one of Escal's claim to fame, or being infamous, is that one of our factories was put on the US entity list for using forced labor, which is a crime against humanity. We don't do that. We are not going to be able to remove ourselves from the list, but we are shameless to pursue what we started out doing, which is fight climate change and provide quality employment for everyone. And no matter how people judge you, you have to move on. And there are adversities, and there's always people who are stealing from the cookie jar. That's part of life. But as agents of change, you have to believe that we can do what we set out to do. And we're going to persistently do it no matter what people say. Yes. Let the only man have the last word.
What are your thoughts?
Even us, we sometimes, our hearts is in the right place, but sometimes what we want is not really good. For example, I can see so many policymakers now interested in introducing AI and bringing it to the classroom, which can be good, but we still don't have enough evidence to say if it's good or not. So we also suffer from ourselves that sometimes this excitement takes us to different places. And very similarly with children, we just need to make sure that we look at this excitement and we control it and guide it in a way where it's for the public good, where it's doing the right thing. So we shouldn't tell them, no, that's wrong, don't do this, go sit down. Not at all. We should encourage them to stay leaders, but we should try to navigate and control this excitement and this type of personality in a different perspective.
Exactly, because there will be different personalities. I will remind you that we'll be coming to the questions very soon, but before we do, just for each one of you, if we are in a world where we have the right agents of change, what would that world look like, specifically in education? It's a tough one, huh?
I think I'd like to see every child having fun. I think that is so important. If they stop having fun in learning, that's the beginning of the end.
I think for me, I keep thinking that we're just born human by chance. We're just a species, and we've not done a very good job on the planet being the species. But I think becoming humane by design, by choices that we make, oh, that's going to be a fabulous world, where you choose to be empathetic, and you choose to be ethical, and you choose these actions. So I think more than any other place, education has such a marvelous role to play in planting those seeds of choices that our children take. So just being human doesn't necessarily determine that there will be an outcome that will be kind and creative and humane. So I think in 2050, we are looking at that, I think, it'll be so beautiful to see humanity win at the end of it.
Well, hopefully sooner. Like I said, we have to reach 1 billion.
Yes.
Yes, Bassem.
I think if we have more agents of change, the world would simply be better. As Kiran said, more humane, a world where every child feels safe, every child gets access to quality education, they're surrounded with love, they're read to from birth. Change is not only happening at the top, it's happening in million ways, every day, small ways. Yeah.
Right. Now, I'm sold, but let's see what the audience thinks, right? Just coming to some of your questions. Someone says, who or what has inspired you most in education lately? Who or what has inspired you most in education lately? Yeah, Bassem?
I mean, I can share a story of an inspiring student in one of the libraries, schools that we worked with. Basically, this student, based on what the teacher told us, she was very shy. She never raised her hand to speak in the classroom, but for some reason, when we introduced this libraries model, she just fell in love with reading and fell in love with books. And she started going to the library every chance and reading as much as possible. And then what she ended up doing is she wrote her own story. And she went to the teacher and she was like, I'd like to go up in front of the classroom and just share the story with everyone. And she did. And she was very confident. She stood up, she spoke clearly, and the students were clapping for her. And what happened is the ripple effect. She was a true leader. She stood up, she took the initiative, and then every student started writing their own story and coming to the teacher telling her, I want to read my story, I want to read my story. So that was very inspiring for me.
For me as well. Karen?
I mean, yeah, of course. I think every day I happen to see a child and there will be an inspiration from there. But I think there was this moment of deep, awakening that I had when I went to, I had the opportunity to go to Rio a couple of years ago. So, we went to the favela and we saw a leader, his name was Brass, and he was working in the toughest neighborhood. I cannot tell you what a shine he had on his face, and he was smiling. I didn't speak Portuguese, he didn't speak English. We fell in love with each other that moment. But it was that radiating of of love. And I think for me, love is such a powerful way to be inspired again and again and again and again and again. So I think to see it with people who go through way tougher things that I would ever encounter, and to see that sense of just that joy. When I get tired sometimes, of course, I have Mahatma Gandhi's cutouts at Riverside at different times. So I go in front of him and say, oh my God, I'm getting so tired. What'll I do? So I have to sort of look at Mahatma Gandhi also and say, I'll do you proud. So I'll come for one more day.
I guess it's
two people, yeah.
It's having that infectious type of leadership where when you're in a space or in a room, you inspire someone else to want to lead as well. Marjorie?
It was about 10 years ago. I was on MIT Corporation for quite a few years, and it was about halfway through, about 10 years ago. I think somebody did a presentation and basically said, at MIT, we don't know how to teach because the students are too bright. Now, I was one of the students who were not as bright. And until that point, I always thought it was my problem. Then I realized there's a partnership. There's teaching and learning. For a university to admit that it is not doing a good job teaching, that makes it a great university. But it also opened my eye to a completely different view on learning and teaching. And then the reason I'm involved with App Inventor or CoolThink is because there's a group of people at MIT who study AI, Marvin Minsky, etc. When you study AI, you're also learning about, you're imitating how humans learn. And through this, we're also improving the way we teach. So it is this partnership, and there's a lot of, and the effort, the passion to learn how to teach better really inspired me and made me feel so proud of being part of this great university.
Right, so also admitting when you're wrong and kind of moving past that. There's an interesting one here. I think it is equally important to have good leadership and good followership. The latter is undervalued. You cannot realize amazing visions with people who refuse to follow the actual vision. What are your thoughts on this? Bassem, what do you think?
That's always an issue, especially when you hire smart people, because you can't imagine hiring smart people and asking them to do whatever you feel is right. So it's always very difficult. But that's leadership. At the end of the day, they will all have to be aligned. If you want them to go on the same ship with you, if you want them to move towards the same direction, we all have to speak the same language. We all have to have the same objective. So it's part of the leadership. Yes, you do need, I wouldn't call them followers, they're just second line leaders. You do need leadership at every level. But at the end of the day, they have to be aligned. They have to know what the main objective is and feel that it's part of their mission. And this is why everyone will move towards their same direction, and at the same time, everyone will do their part to make sure that we get there.
Right, that is leadership. I like that. Kieran?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a no-brainer. I think you have to lead with competency, not hierarchy, right? So it's a given. So there are so many times I've had to get out of the way for stuff to get done because I just don't know that. It'll be absolutely foolish for me to think that I have to lead in a space where I am not, I don't have the competency. So I think the idea of doing that with ease and with not losing the lighthouse of where we're going, it's like guiding you to that principle. I think it's super easy.
And I suppose that actually feeds into the conversation we're having, because if you have leaders in all these different spaces, then you can step back for a bit as someone else does something different. Marjorie?
Years ago, we had started hiring university graduates as management trainees, and I asked one of my factory managers for his feedback, and he said, "Boss, can we just stick with people who didn't go to university?" This group of university graduates, they ask a lot of questions. They're totally ignorant. They don't know how to work. So this is where the challenge comes. I told him, it's just exactly like what happened at MIT. The professors just want a one way. I teach, it's your responsibility to learn. And this guy is saying, it's my way or the highway. Now, MIT is humble enough to say, we're going to learn to teach better. Our managers, our leaders have to be humble enough to say, how do I express myself better? And then maybe you have a point that is more relevant than mine. So that is where we all start with leadership.
Can I also add one more point to basically? I think failure is one very important piece of leadership, because even if someone from the team wants to try something new that I don't agree with or don't fully agree with, that's absolutely fine. Let them try and test it. And even if we fail, that's amazing. We've learned that this doesn't work. So failure has to be part of the process. So even if there are like people who are interested in different things, doing things differently, let them test and let them try and let them fail or maybe succeed. If they succeed, that's amazing, because we all want the same thing for the foundation. If they fail, that's also good because we've learned.
Right. Now, I have one more question, and this one, selfishly, is from me. Being selfish is not good leadership, but I do want to understand from each one of you, what is the take-home? What's the one thing, anyone listening right now, the one thing that we should remember as we go forth and try and encourage people to be agents of change? Bassem?
I think the one thing that we should take away from this conversation is that leadership is all around us. We just need to open our eyes, see it, and nurture it, empower it, make sure that we give them all the right tools, confidence, space to lead, because when you create this space for them, this is where leadership starts to really exist.
Kieran?
I think for me, I think the idea of the now, the idea that you don't defer leadership to next Thursday or next week or next month, I think it's in these tiny little actions that you do and you keep practicing. It's just a simple logic. The more you practice, the more you reflect, the more you have an iterative mindset. I think I love that. I love the idea of not over-planning, not having 5-year plans. I think those are so limiting. But so for me, the idea of just showing up, and if you can practice being responsive with giving your actions clarity, empathy, and hope, well, that's a lovely iterative cycle to be on. So I would say practice, practice, practice.
Practice, practice, practice. Marjorie?
We at our company have adopted Lean as a way of building our competitiveness. At the heart of it is building trust within the community, making everybody feel that. So we start with dining. It is through food that we communicate with each other and convince workers, managers, that convincing you to eat a healthy meal is in your interest as well as in the company's interest, thereby building a trust. And from that, we start to do other initiatives depending on what you're doing. At the heart of leadership is to build trust. Without trust, no single individual or team of people can manage to lead or have people follow.
Building trust. And I trust you also all enjoyed the conversation today. Thank you all. It's been an absolute pleasure. I will leave you with the words of a great leader from the past, Nelson Mandela, who said, "Education is the most powerful weapon that we can use to change the world." And for those of you who do follow Mission Impossible, your mission is now to go out, if you accept it, and create more agents of change. And I can see the time, so I will say this message will self-destruct in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you.